What's up, everybody? This is Joey C. from the Brutally Sober podcast, coming at you with Bobby C. from Anonymous Addiction. And here we are, 1 o'clock on Saturday. That makes us let's see if I can get it right this time. Alcoholics Anonymous Reprogramming. What the hell are we called? Alcoholics Anonymous.
Deprogramming podcast. But you know what? We're transitioning. We're really deprogramming and reprogramming as we're speaking. So it's a kind of a reprogramming our minds, or maybe expanding our consciousness. Back to you, Joe. Go ahead. You can finish up with your little pitch here.
I'm not sure I can. That wasn't a very good start.
Yes, it was. It's cool, man. It's got to go like this. It's got to be riff. That's the way it is.
This is extemporaneous. This is an extemporaneous podcast, okay? Alcoholics Anonymous Deprogramming podcast. That's what we're technically called. That's what our YouTube channel is called. And we're here to talk about a bunch of things to help expand our mind and expand your mind. But before we get started, I want to remind you to check me out on Anchor, on Spotify, on Apple, on all those platforms. You listen to the Brutally Sober podcast. Check me out on Instagram, BruteSob, Twitter, BruteSob. Check out, Bobby C., I'm going to let you spin off on a couple things people can find you at, too.
Well, you could go to Anonymous Addiction at My Truth About AA, as Bobby C sees it, on Facebook. And I'm on Twitter, but I got the private group on Facebook, and it's growing, and I post Joey stuff on there, and I post a lot of different things on there. And, the podcast is about the power of choice, and I'm kind of transitioning without labels. I don't like labels anymore. So it's a kind of a reprogramming podcast to delve into ourselves, society, the world, and the universe. So it's cool. Come join us. Subscribe right down here to our Alcoholics Anonymous Deprogramming podcast. Today we're going to be talking about Chapter 11 in the Big Book. This program's for people that are already in Alcoholics Anonymous, that are thinking about leaving, or that really want to stay there, but they want to create their own thing. They're tired of being told what to do. They have some sobriety under their belt, and they want to kind of expand into other different things. So this podcast gives the viewers a chance to do that. And the people that are left already, we're deprogramming some things that you probably is in your subconscious mind. It's been there layered and layered and layered, and we're just uncovering some of that stuff. And so it's Chapter 11, A Vision for You, but I'm going to retitle this. It's really a vision for AA. This chapter is kind of really cool, and we're going to get into it. And let me start out by just saying, this whole chapter talks about Dr. Bob, talks about Bill Wilson. He had 6 months sobriety. Okay, so he had 6 months sobriety when he searched out for Dr. Bob. Bill W. had 6 months. All right, so Bill W. got sober December 11th, 1934. Okay, now he called Dr. Bob and went to the hospital and searched out another person. Bill Wilson was a stockbroker, very, money guy. He a lot of his family had money. Dr. Bob was a physician. Now, Bill had 6 months when he went to Dr. Bob, and Dr. Bob got sober June 10th, 1934, which is 6 months after Bill. And the third, this vision for you talks about the third member, which is Bill D. And Bill D got sober like 2 weeks after Bob and Bill came. 2 weeks. So Dr. Bob had 2 weeks sober. Bill had 6 months sober. And Bill D, who was the third member, he walked out of the hospital and he stayed sober. So I'm laying the foundation for really what's going on with this society, because when I say a vision for AA, it gets into, they start talking about, this book, it's only 164 pages, but it's very if you don't really start connecting all the dots and following what went on from the beginning, it's hard to understand what I'm talking about, because people will say, Bobby, you're just bad mouthing AA. Look, what I'm doing is I'm uncovering, recovering, discovering the truth about what Alcoholics Anonymous has told everybody and what people believe. So I'm just uncovering some things. I'm not talking about the members. I'm talking about the Society of Alcoholics Anonymous. So I'll just start off with that, Joe. What do you have to share about that in the beginning?
Well, the only thing I can share is my perception on how I read the book, because I don't have the knowledge that you do is when it gets into the whole Alcoholics Anonymous as a entity with ulterior motives, maybe, if you want to put it that way. um, I'm not there yet. I haven't done my research. I've done a little bit. I don't have as much knowledge as you. I look forward to having that. Our whole podcast up until now has been a good introduction into uh, how we're going to get into all the things that I want to learn about AA as that different kind of entity with different motives. And I don't have any, like I said, I don't have as much knowledge as you do about that. So I'm looking forward to reading more about it and finding out specifically why it is the way you think the way it is that why you think things about AA, why you have certain opinions about them. If I'm looking forward to seeing if I agree with you or if I disagree with you, um, right off the bat, and then if my opinion changes once I've done my own research. And to so having said all that, this takeaway, I'll call it. That's what all the cool news guys say now. Well, what's your takeaway? My takeaway from this chapter, just based on how I'm interpreting this chapter from this book on the table, nothing more, is it's great for me because this chapter kind of talks about how I think AA, how I kind of utilize AA already, which is fellowship. I go to meetings for the fellowship and to relate to other quote unquote alcoholics. And this chapter didn't refer to the 12 steps that I could see at all. All right. And it says everything is a suggestion. Okay. So I'm all about that. I'm all about having everything as a suggestion. And I'm all about just going to meetings to relate to people. Now, I've said before, I think that I think, Bobby, maybe you even mentioned it to me when I said I'm not sure if I actually work the steps. I don't work the steps consciously, but I probably, without even knowing it, work the steps on a daily basis, just because they're just things that I probably just do without even thinking of it. But I this chapter of the book, I mean, it just it told us that we're gonna, we enjoy our drinking, then we don't enjoy our drinking, then we're gonna try one more time and fail, which I could definitely relate to. And yeah, it just goes into the story about how like you said, how Bill met Bob, and how the AA began, and things like that. And then at the end, it tells you that it's at the end, it tells you that it's suggestive and they don't know anything. And if you want to know more, refer to God. So I kind of like that, because if you're going to tell me to refer to God, I'll refer to God or myself, or however I want to interpret it or define that. That's kind of how, I mean, I wrote down a bunch of notes about it, but I usually don't end up referring to any of them. But yeah, I mean the whole chapter, like what the second to last paragraph was, yeah, it's basically just a suggestion. We don't know shit, and you want to know more, speak to God during your morning meditations. All right, that's actually is a better program than I think the whole the whole rest of the book is.
Yeah. So, I agree with you in the simplicity of this. One person coming to another and trying to help them is an ancient form of help, altruism. It's an ancient form of helping somebody. That I don't have any problem with people helping other people and uh, people getting uh, clean and stopping using their habits and creating a better life. I'm all about that. That's what this program's all about. That's what we're trying to do here. What I'm doing is trying to uncover. I've uncovered it already, but I'm uh, passing what I've uncovered to the viewers. So when they do go to sit and read chapter 11, A Vision for You, you'll have more information that I have uncovered and discovered. Okay, so this isn't about me putting down the beauty of the one person going to another help. When I say we're creating our own programs, I'm not saying don't to discount help because we all need help. Okay, help comes, but we are the ones that either accept it, not either, we accept it. So it comes from us. The acceptance of help comes from us. uh, when somebody gives us a suggestion or some advice, when we do it, it comes from us. It doesn't come from the help. The help is like the pointer to a way, and then we, through action, go that way. Okay, so I'm not discounting we all need help, and help is great. So Bill W. helped Dr. Bob, and Bill W. and Dr. Bob helped Bill D. I don't have a problem with that. That's not why I'm doing this deprogramming podcast. I'm uncovering things that really doesn't even have to do with Bill W. and Dr. Bob and Bill D. because it's been hijacked. And next podcast, I'm going to do some timelines and exactly show you where the whole thing was put together. And even in this chapter, it's kind of weird. You have to look deep. You have to go deep, but you can't go deep unless you have past knowledge of history to go deeper down the rabbit hole. So in this vision for you, let me just go to what Joey just said. Our book is meant to be suggested only. Why do you think that's there? The first sentence. Our book is meant to be suggested only. I mean, that's a catch. And this is read. This is read millions of times every day at most meetings. Okay, a vision for you. If it's so suggested, then I'll just go back to see. That's why you keep on have to. You got to go back. I'll go back to tradition. The traditions, because people will say, "Well, screw the traditions. I'm not a tradition guy, and I don't believe in traditions. I don't even go to tradition meetings. So what the hell do I care?" Well, probably 80% of the people or 70% of the people say that, and they don't really give a shit. They don't really care. So the minority are controlling the whole message, and the majority are just saying, I don't give a shit. I don't care. And then all these new people are coming in, and they're not getting the truth, really. If you go back to the 12 traditions, just the 12, now these are suggestions, right? Each member of Alcoholics Anonymous is but one small part of the great whole. AA must continue to live, or most of us will surely die. That damn doesn't sound like a suggestion to me.
Okay. What did you just read from?
In the back of the big book, the short version, the long form 12 traditions. It's in the back, the 12 traditions. It's the long form, but the traditions in the step, the 12 and 12, they have an even longer version. But this book was written 4 years after Bill met Bob. So they did a short version. They did the 12 traditions real short, and then they did a little longer version, and then they made the step book, 14 years later, to make more money, and that's how the pyramid kept on growing. So AA must continue to live, or most of us will surely die. That's on page 565 of the big book. That doesn't sound like a suggestion to me. I don't know. But nobody's in in the traditions. I was, though, because I wanted to go deeper. About tradition 10, AA group or member should never, in such a way as to implicate AA, express never. Now, you should never express any opinion on outside controversial issues, which I'm doing right this moment. Okay, me and you are. Okay, particularly those of politics, alcoholic reform, or religion. Secular religion. Okay, alcohol reform. This whole book is nothing but alcoholism, the disease and the cure of alcoholism. It's all about a reform. Okay, it's all about way back during the Prohibition, and it goes way back into the 1800s. This shit. So people just read. Our book is meant to be suggested only, and they take that, they read that one sentence, and they say, Bobby, you know, you're making something out of nothing. Well, when you give your life and your will for life and recruit others for life, that's a big deal to a society. So that's a big deal. So I have a responsibility. I feel I have a responsibility and an obligation to share some things that I've discovered. I'm not saying you want to run from AA. You can stay in there, check things out, check other things out, but listen to the podcast and uncover some things. And you don't have to make a big deal out of it. It's just knowledge, you know. Here's another thing. I'm going to go a little one more step, and then I'll give it back to you, Joey. People people have to read like deeper, because on the bottom of, okay, on the bottom of, let's see, page 156, A Vision for You, on the bottom of page 156, it says, this refers to Bill and Bob's first visit to AA number 3. See the Pioneers section. This resulted in AA's first group. Okay, so see the Pioneer section. So I'm going to go back to the stories. Okay, the first story starts with Dr. Bob's nightmare. Well, I skipped over that because I want to get into Bill D, which is about A Vision for You. Bill D, the third member. Here we go. Now, I'm going to go to his story. Bill D was in the book. He was the third member. So in his story says Alcoholics Anonymous number 3. Okay, so on page 182. Big book's only 184 pages, but it's deep. This shit is deep. This stuff is a lot deeper than people realize. They think they're just going to join a society and live happily ever after in this society and recruit others for life. It's a slavery. Okay, I don't want to see people enslaved. I want them to grow. I want them to consciously grow and expand and become aware and think and question, observe and become aware. So let's go to page 182, and then we go back and we go right here to, now remember, this isn't about alcohol reform, right? Okay, so if it's not, then why does Bill and Bob say this to Bill D? You are an alcoholic. That's at the bottom of page 187. You are an alcoholic. As far as I know, that was the first time I had ever paid any attention to that word. Okay, you know why? Because it wasn't used so often. Okay, alcoholism. Okay, now listen to this. I figured out I was just a drunk, which he was. He was just a drunk, really. He had a bad habit of drinking. And they said, that's Bill and Bob, no, you have a disease. Okay. See where it's hidden? You gotta look this shit. You gotta check that, you gotta go deep to see all about this alcoholism and the disease concept and where it came from. Now, because when I do the timeline, you're gonna see all the players before this intermingled with all this. Okay. So it's like, oh, like people will say, Bobby, what the hell do I want to check into this shit for? Why do I want to know this stuff? Like I said, you want to join a society, it's going to take your will, care, life away, give your care, make your purpose, my primary purpose, call you an alcoholic for the rest of your life so you can raise your hand and say, my name is Bobby C. I'm an alcoholic. And my primary purpose is to help other alcoholics for life. No. If you want to do that, fine. This program's not for you. Just just stay in and check out, keep on checking, just stay in and do your thing. Because I'm gonna get back to, after Joey's done talking again, I'm gonna get back to why it's definitely a religion. There's no question that it's a religion. Okay, wait a second. Now, didn't you see I just said no, you have a disease. Now the next page, okay? The next page, in the middle, it describes where it says, he explains that that he and a man from New York had a cure for alcoholism. It's in that small little text that talks about, it's like in the middle of the page, 188. Bob and Bill had a cure for alcoholism. Okay, so if this isn't about the disease concept, I'm going to show you why it's all about creating the disease concept and medicalizing the alcoholism for insurance purposes, and why over and over again it talks about treatment in here. Like the vision for you, it'll say over and over about for the treatment of alcoholic and drug addicts, well-known hospital, treatment, former patients go there to help. This is 4 years later, this is 1939. This is when the book this is just when the book was written. Just imagine a couple years before that, when they started to set it all up, prominent psychiatrist, in touch with a prominent psychiatrist who had undertaken certain responsibilities for the mental health of the community. So it's getting involved. This chapter is deeper than you want to believe, because all we do, or we're told to pick out like words and slogans and symbols. That's why all these things are read over and over again, because that's the brainwashing system. Okay, because they always go back to the paragraphs: a vision for you, more about alcoholism, preamble, how it works. Then it goes to stream of misery which flows through the institutions. Treatment. And then it says our book is meant to be only suggested. And here's the weird part about it is these three guys got together. Bill had 6 months. Dr. Bob had 15 days. And the other guy walked out, never drank again. And they all had one thing in common, is that they went to their God and got sober through God, but they hijacked it, constantly saying higher power and spirituality. I'm here to tell you that you are the one that gets yourself sober. I believe, I don't believe in the religious God, okay? Because it's outside and you go to this God. It's a religious God. Go to this God outside when actually you are doing it inside of you. So I believe in the creator of the universe. I mean, I believe we are the creators. We're part of the creators, and I believe all that true spiritual stuff that I've discovered. But this is hijacking true spirituality. It's pure religion. And I believe that we all get sober without God, this religion God, this word God that's been so misused and abused throughout centuries. Take that away, and we create our own programs. And Bob did it. Bill did it. First three of them did it. They walked out of there. They did it. If they can do it, if you believe that God does it, then you believe God does it. That's okay. But a lot of people don't believe it. So how in the hell can both be true? Okay. So if Bill did it, I did it, Joe did it, you can do it. That's all I'm saying. If Joe did it, I did it, Bill did it, Bob did it, you can do it too. You know, all we got to do is stop making excuses for all this shit and start getting into action and working towards what we want and doing more of, instead of focusing more on what we don't want, more on drinking and drugging, focus more on what me and Joe are doing. Okay, doing some research, trying to find out meaningful things about society, about life, about the world, about the universe, especially about ourselves, you know, and about this word spirituality or this word God, or, you know, do some research and check things out so we can expand our content. This whole thing is about going beyond the known, what you're being told. It's about going beyond what we're being told. Uh, so it's all about discovery. I'm sorry, Joe. I just wanted to get into that. I'll let you talk. You could talk the rest, but I wrote so much shit down. But I wanted to get to those points because those points will start connecting next week's podcast. Stay tuned for that one because that's going to connect the timelines. Back to you, Joey.
So, Bobby, me and you, we get together once a week. We met. Obviously, we were already been sober for a while. But you helped me out just by us having conversations, me talking to you. You help me out, right? I like to think that I help you out in some ways. So when Bill went to Bob, he was only 6 months sober, and they formed a 2-man fellowship, and that seemed to help Dr. Bob. Now, did Bill integrate, or did he even have anything to do with the 12 steps when he met Dr. Bob?
Did he know? No, they didn't have 12. They didn't have the 12 steps. They didn't have nothing. Here's what they did have. They mentioned this in the book. Now, this book was written 4 years later after they met, so they can make up a lot of shit after 4 years. You know what I mean? So they're just giving me an account. Do I believe a lot of this stuff? No, some of this stuff. It's a book. Okay, it's a book. Okay, so here's the points that I made out of what they discovered is, let's see where I wrote them down. There's 4 points really. Okay, let's see. Here's what they said in the book, which I agree with. It's no big deal. I mean, like I said, this book is borrowed. It's ancient. This ain't the cure for alcoholism. That's a bunch of bullshit. Okay, you're the cure. All right. It's just a book. They want to sell books. They want to grow the pyramid. They want money for the top. Okay. and we'll show you what it's all about. Is this movement cool? This movement was great in the in the beginning. It was like I said, ancient. Here's the thing. You pass it on. That's what they said in the book. If you read it, it'll tell you. Pass it on. So what am I doing? What are you doing? Me and you are passing it on. Are we passing something on? I hope so. You're passing something just by you. You were the one that got this Zoom thing together. You're the one that sends me the emails. It's not me. You want to know if you're helping me? What the hell? Yes, you are. God, look, you're helping. You're the one that sent me the emails. I'm the one that clicks on it. I put the action into clicking. God ain't doing none of that stuff. Okay. Yes, you're helping me. There's no damn question about it. Okay. So you're passing it on to me. Okay. Here, couldn't do it alone. I agree with that. In the beginning, we can't do it alone. And even today, I can't do it alone. I listen to new podcasts and learn more things that somebody's passing it on still to me. I listen to other people. It's not about recovery from addiction, it's a recovery from society. So I listen to other people and they pass it on to me. So am I doing that? Yes, that's two. It says it right here. That's what they do. Okay. Three, believe in a higher power. I believe in I believe in a higher thing than me, but I am part of that higher thing. Okay, I believe in that. I don't even call it a higher power. They coined this word higher power, higher self. I like higher self, higher consciousness. I like to raise my consciousness level. I like to raise my energy level. Right? Is that higher? Yeah. Okay. And Sarah was into that last podcast talking about the energy, vibrational energy, higher level. Okay, I'm all into that. Ain't no big deal. That's ancient. It's ancient shit. This ain't new stuff. Okay. Go. Here's the one thing that I'm not into. Okay. Go directly to God, and that's what they all have in common. All three of them go directly to God. See, Bill W. said after he gave his life and will in that hospital to God, he said it. See, I go deep. I go every word, man. I look at every sentence and I kind of dissect it. And people say, well, you're making your own perspective. That's your own reality. No, it's not. It's written right here. Okay. Bill D. said that went directly because he was already religious. Okay. He went directly to God and God relieved him. Okay. So I'll take four out of the picture. One, two, and three. It's cool. No problem. I got no problem with that.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? I'm just latching on to the fellowship part of this because really what they did, they were getting together and they had three guys. Now they had three guys and it was a little fellowship, people that could relate to each other. And yeah, maybe their willingness to let God take over, if they want to say that had something to do with it too. Maybe it did, but really, up until now, every alcoholic was just struggling by themselves. Now they were starting to come together. Each individual person was 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 coming together, so they had someone else to talk to. I mean, as to be as like basic as that, I think that's that's the cure. If you want to call something the cure, that's the cure. Is is having some kind of fellowship and relating to somebody. Hey, you know, I'm not alone. Um, but going back a little bit to what we were talking about earlier, about how we were the end of this chapter says that everything is a suggestion. You started reading the traditions. The traditions used the word must and things like that a few times. So, what is would you say that the steps in the program is suggestive, and the traditions and the representation of Alcoholics Anonymous is not suggestive. That's kind of what I was getting a feeling for. Like the 12 steps are suggestive, the traditions and the representation of AA is not suggestive.
Well, all throughout this whole book, in the 12 steps, step book and in the big book, the whole book, throughout the whole book, God's mentioned so many damn times, 130, 150. It's mentioned. So the whole program is get you to God, period. I mean, if you don't believe that, that's okay, because it doesn't matter if you believe it or not. It's not believing it. The whole program is meant to get you to God. It's even meant to get agnostic and atheist to God. Sooner or later, you will come to know him. Okay. When they say him, it's God. So is that suggested? Yeah, they're going to say this is suggested program. Of course they're going to say. What are they going to say? You got to do. If they came right out and said every meeting, you better do this, it's, they say it, but they don't say it. It's, you got to really get deep into it to know what it's really saying. Okay. Yes, it's to get you to God. Here's the thing. If God was the way, then that means, let's just say you believe that God was the way, like Bill, Bob, and Dee, and millions of others believe that it's only the way. That's the way, because the whole book is getting you to God, and that's the way. Okay, so that's the way. Now, how about the secular AA meetings, Smart Recovery, Harmony, all the other recovery programs in the world that don't believe in God and get sober? Then that says that you're God's doing it for you, but you just don't know it. Okay? God's doing it for you, but you just don't know it. Because if it wasn't, then what the hell? Which way? I mean, it's both ways, really. Okay? You want to believe it's God? It works. You want to believe it's you? It works. Okay? To me, the God thing is religious in these books. If you want to believe in religion, it'll work. Because no matter what you believe, whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it will achieve. So this is God right here in this mind. It's a computer. It's outside and it's inside. So it's all God. Okay. So it's in here, God is here, and God is outside. So, like Jesus said, you are the way. I am the way. When he was saying I am the way, he was saying you're the way. Okay? I am the way. It's just like I'm saying, as Bobby C sees it, it's not as Bobby C sees it. And it's as you see it. It's not as I see it, it's as you see it. So who's right and who's wrong? Whatever the mind can conceive. You want to believe that it's God, then it's God. You want to believe it's not, then it's not. It doesn't matter, really, What matters to me is somebody being enslaved into a religion or a society that does not help them to expand their consciousness into other awarenesses. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean,
Back to you, Joe.
They say use your own God, use your own God, use your own God. But really, I mean, who are you trying to kid? They're all going to try and get you to believe in the religious God of their own. It's probably what it was back in the day. I don't know if I think people are more open-minded now in the program. I don't think people in the program are trying to get other people to convince them to believe in a religious God. That's not what I've seen in the little bit of time that I've been in AA. But the problem with using the word God is just there's no clear definition of it. It's interpreted a different way from every single person. There's no clear definition of the word God. The word God, I guess, is the religious God. People hear the word God. I guess a lot of people think of the word religious God. when I hear the word God, I don't automatically think religious God. I think something else. So there's just too many different definitions of the word God. It gets so confusing. I just want to read the second to last paragraph. Um, this is our book is meant to. I think you already read this, but I got to read it again in a second. Our book is meant to be suggestive only. We realize we know only a little. God will constantly disclose more to you and to us. Ask him in your morning meditation what you can do each day for the man who is still sick. The answers will come if your own house is in order. But obviously, you cannot transmit something you haven't got. So see to it that your relationship with him is right, and great events will come to pass for you and countless others. This is the great facts for us. Now he's talking about God. He's talking about a religious God. But like I'm gonna read that, and I'm not gonna interpret that as a religious God. I'm gonna interpret that as someone. I'm gonna read this paragraph, and I'm gonna interpret it to be true because I'm not referring to a religious God. Um, I think this chapter, if you update it, if you if you if you update this chapter into if you upload this chapter into the Alcoholics Anonymous Deprogramming podcast and translate it in a way that someone like us might want to take guidance from it, it would be that this person, you have a clear conscience. You're striving for inner peace. You're on the right path. You're not looking over your shoulder every day. You have a positive attitude. You got a clean slate, a new perception of life, a new perception of yourself. You have the ability to listen to yourself and to God, which I think is the same thing. You can see guidance. You have a bullshit filter, um, and great events will come to pass for you. And I think he's just talking about you're on the path that you're supposed to be. And while you're on that path, great things are going to come to you. And now he's talking about like the law of attraction. This is all just like, when I read this stuff, I just update it. I interpret it, and I update it.
Well, what you're doing then is exactly what we're telling everyone, not telling everyone to do, but giving some suggestions that you're creating your own program than what the hell you're saying. Okay, which is great. That's what we're doing. That's what I'm doing. You're creating your own program because they'll tell you to keep on coming back, Joey. Look what you're thinking got you. You know what I mean? Okay, so you're creating your own program. They used to tell me when I used to say shit like that, they used to say, Bobby's way, huh? Not God's way, but Bobby's way. Mm-hmm. Look what you're thinking gets you into. There's always something they'll say to you. Here's all I'm saying to anybody. Keep on going back to Alcoholics Anonymous. Joe, I can't wait till you get back to some meetings so you could kind of go back and uncover some things that you heard here, and then you go back there and you can uncover and come back and say, you know what? I didn't hear that today. I didn't hear none of that today. What I heard was this, and that's good. I'm looking forward to you doing that. But I'm talking about people. They've been in this program for 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. I'm not just talking about a newcomer. I'm talking to the people that have been programmed for years and years and years and over and over and over. They don't even know what the hell's going on in the world. They can't talk about no outside issues. All they do is go to meetings every day. Meeting makers make it. Some people go to meetings every single day. What do you think they're getting in their brains and in their subconscious? They're getting all these messages and all these books. And most of the people aren't going any deeper. They're just being programmed, you know, and they're willfully, they're volunteers. And that's another thing we'll get into is how in the hell they came up with a volunteer system where you can give money and they're going to give you a cure. How in the hell did Bob and Bill D, or no, Bill and Bob, Bill, 6 months. How in the hell, 6 months, just Bill W, have a cure for a disease of alcoholism? How did he? Because it says it right here. It says the New York stockbroker and I have a cure for alcoholism. This is telling us what happened 4 years before when they met Bill D. How in the hell did they have a cure? How did they even know there was a cure? What scientific statistics said that this thing had a cure? They only had like, maybe a couple hundred members. They didn't take no notes, take no statistics. People were coming in and out like flies. Go. The meeting you go back to, you're going to see a bunch of different people there. A lot of people won't even be there. I belong to about 5 different home groups. I'd go back to some of them different home groups. I never see the same people. Most of my friends in AA, my really good close friends that I could count on my hands, I have a couple still active, but they're dead. Okay. And they were just regular damn people. When I sat with them and shit, we just talked about shit. They were regular people that screwed up all the time. And they were just regular folk. You know what I mean? And a couple of my old timers that passed away, they didn't believe half of this shit either. Okay. So get back to you, Joey. What the hell was I going off on that? I don't even know where I was going.
You sound like me in the beginning of this podcast now.
Damn, help me,
Bobby. So when's your sober birthday? What year was it?
February 27th, 1984.
1984. So I was born in 1981. So you've experienced like my lifetime. Okay, as long as I've been alive, you have been going into rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, so you've seen so much more than I have, and so much more than a lot of people have. What you're explaining is sometimes I can't even wrap my head around how someone can be so indoctrinated, and how people can be so blindly led, and how people can be so easily influenced, and how people can become robots and things like that. But I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, Bobby, you've been in this ship for so long. You've probably seen people go in, and over a span of 30 years, I don't know, maybe you haven't, but you've seen people over like the same person over like 30 years, and you see what happened to them and how deep they've gotten into being indoctrinated and just not thinking for themselves and things like that. And it's hard for me to wrap my head around that possibility, because I've only been shit. I mean, I was only going to a meeting for like a year, starting in 2019, and before that, I was only in AA for a year. I mean, I got a total of 2 years going to AA meetings. All right, you got like my whole lifetime going into AA meetings. So I haven't seen the same people over like a lifetime. I'm 40 years old. So I don't, my perspective isn't as scaled back as yours. You can see everything that you've experienced like that. I'm still in this like 2-year little thing right here.
Yeah, but here's the deal, Joey. You're not programmed.
Yes.
This is about deprogramming. I'm not deprogramming you. I'm reprogramming you before you get deprogrammed.
Right. So I mean,
before you get programmed, I'm deprogramming you before you get programmed, and I'm not, you know what I mean. I don't mean
Yeah,
I'm doing this to you or whatever,
I know.
but I'm giving you some information prior to. But there's look, you're like me. When I first came into the Alcoholics Anonymous, I didn't buy all the shit. Okay, so I didn't go to a step meeting for a year. I stayed sober. I didn't have a sponsor. I stayed sober. I didn't go to meetings every day. I stayed sober. I didn't listen to half the shit they said. Okay, I stayed sober. But eventually I did everything they said. And I still stay sober. And then I didn't do everything they said and still stay sober. So I kept on proving to myself. And I kept on going to other places. Like in the beginning, I went to meditation meetings. I went to CODA meetings. I went to ACOA. I expanded. I read different books. I checked out Wayne Dyer stuff and Anthony Robbins stuff. I kept on going out in the beginning. So I kept on going in. But what happens is they suck you in with the coins. Oh, Bobby, you got 2 years. You're going to get 5. Oh, now I'm going for 5. Well, and I didn't sponsor a lot of people. I sponsored maybe 1 or 2 people in all those years because I didn't believe in sponsorship. I had a sponsor, but I didn't sponsor other people. I had a sponsor just because I raised my hand and said I have a sponsor. I talked to them. They became my friend. They didn't become my sponsor like in this AA bullshit. They never tried to because they couldn't anyhow because they knew I wasn't a robot. They knew it. So, they give me suggestions and they tell me or life situations. I would pass some life situations that just like I would ask my father or my uncle or a friend or another person, and they would give me some advice and I'd either take it. Most of the time I took it and sometimes I didn't, but no big deal. You have to learn on yourself. But I wasn't one that had 10 sponsorees that walked around doing this book over and over again. I didn't believe in none of that shit. I didn't believe in doing that. Okay, it's because my consciousness, and it's the same with what's happening to you. You're the same thing that's happening to you is what's happened to me when I first came in. So yes, you can't understand how somebody can, but I can because I know. Okay, I know. I've seen it. I experienced it. I know the people that did this. How do you think the fellowship grows? What do you think it grows because there's not people hitting people over the head with the big book and say, "Follow me"? Clancy Pacific group over there with Clancy. He passed away, and people were glad he passed away because he used to have hundreds and hundreds of people that he sponsored. Okay, he used to do talks. He was the guru, and they would do whatever he says. And he says, if you don't do this stuff, you will die. Okay, so there's thousands. There's thousands of people doing that today. There's probably going to be more like us, and I think the fellowship isn't growing because other programs are growing, other different modalities and people. Joey, I believe I'm always 5 years ahead of the curve anyhow. So I believe what we're doing here is is the future. There's no question in my mind that the disease concept is bullshit, and they're going to find out about it. They talk about drinkers in here. They talk about, let's mention some drinkers. What do they mention? They mention right in the vision for you. They talk about serious drinkers, or are you an ex-problem drinker? Are you a heavy drinker? Are you an alcoholic? Or are you a normal folk? Normal folk. I don't know. Me personally, I had a bad habit of alcohol, but I had no skills. I had no other skills how to stop. No, I had no tools. This program did not give me any tools how to deal with life, or even if I wanted to be a moderate drinker, this program never told me how to. Even if I could, and I believe you can, I choose abstinence, and that's the way I choose today. But there's people that moderate and learn how to moderate because they learn different skills and different ways of. And plus, there's so many people sent through courts saying they're alcoholics. As soon as they raise their hand, oh, my name is Billy, I'm an alcoholic, and they ain't got problems of drinking like a lot of folk have. I mean, look, me and you, we still had our car, our wife, and our house. Okay. So a lot of people, you know what people are going to say? You're not an alcoholic. You're not a true alcoholic. That's why you're talking this bullshit. Okay. Well, come live my life back then and ask my wife if I didn't have a problem with alcohol. Okay. Go ask her and she'll tell you. And I knew it. All right. So I quit years ago. No big deal. That was easy. Uncovering the truth about all this other bullshit is the hard part because it deals with a lot of research and studying and stuff like that. But I tell people, I talk to people all the time on the phone. They call me through Messenger and ask me, and they go on all the shit. They can't get sober. They do this. They do that. I can't. Up. And all I say is, look, do you put more energy in thinking about drinking and drugging or gambling or whatever you do than you do in getting healthy and not doing these things? And the answer is always yes. They put the energy wherever the attention goes, the energy flows. So they put their attention into it. It's that simple. It's really not very complex. This shit is very complex. It's all up to us. If it's meant to be, it's up to me, and I gotta want it. I gotta have a desire, the exact same desire that I have to drink or drug. I have to have that exact same desire, but it's got to be transferred and refocused over to not wanting it. It's like, where do I go now? It's like where me and you're going. Me and you're going here into this space, okay? And whoever's listening, if no one's listening, that's okay because me and Joey are doing the deal. We're expanding. We're growing. We got the superpower like Joey talked about last week. I got chills in my body right now just talking about it. You know what I mean? And that's the energy we're talking about that's needed to go in a different direction in anything you try to succeed or change. So here I go again, Joey. Back to you.
Can you repeat that question that you asked some people about paying attention to drinking or drugging versus paying attention to getting healthy? What is it? What is it that you asked them?
Wherever your attention goes, your energy flows. Okay, so as soon as I start thinking about a drink, I put my attention to it, and the thought becomes my habit again. Creates the trigger probably comes first, then the thought comes second, and then the obsession, the compulsion, and then the craving. All these things are just created up here. Okay, it has nothing to do with the booze. It has nothing to do with the disease or alcoholism. It has to do with here. They should rename all these programs Thinking Anonymous. Thinking Anonymous. Why do we have all these separate programs? And so we'll get into next week why the 12-step concept, the disease concept, alcoholism, all the treatment centers, all the timelines of all this shit. It'll take us a couple podcasts probably, but we'll get into it because a lot of people are interested in that. And they say, well, you've been talking a lot about this shit. Let's see something on paper.
Yeah, and let me tell you, I'm gonna be questioning the shit out of you next week, playing
Cool,
devil's
good.
advocate, and basically because I don't know what you know. All right.
Well, here's the thing though. You could ask all the questions you want in the world, but you got to research it yourself because if you don't believe me, then you got to research it because belief is just belief. It's belief isn't knowledge or knowing. So to know something isn't belief. You know it. Like I have my right hand up. I know that's my hand. I know it. I don't believe it. I know it. So after you question it and check it out, you go check it out.
So I'll
Then
be
you could say, right on. That's what this whole thing's going to be about.
yeah, I'll be taking next week. I'm gonna be taking notes. I'm gonna be doing my research, and it's gonna be an interesting podcast. I don't know what we're gonna call it, but I know it's gonna be interesting, and yeah, maybe it'll take us a couple podcasts just to cover.
Well, let me just say to the viewer that everything I talked about or we talked about today is part of it. Okay, so if you're not taking in this research that I'm talking about, so if you're not checking in to the book and reading where I said and going back and all that other stuff, that's just you not believing it or believing it. That's not you checking it out, you know. So this podcast was very important for the next podcast. Back to you, Joey. We got to sign off.
Yeah, I think we'll sign off. I just wanted to remind everybody that this is, I'm learning every single day. I'm learning every single podcast. And my opinions are going to change. My opinions could change at any day. All right. Anything I say on this podcast is based on experience I have up until the date of this podcast. I can change my mind tomorrow and not have any different experiences. Maybe I just thought about something. I don't know. Half the time, the stuff that's coming out of my mouth, I'm thinking of how I'm feeling right now in this moment. Anything that I say, I could say something totally different next podcast. We're just shooting the shit here, and we're getting our energy is flowing, and this is how you expand your mind. This is how you prevent yourself from being a robot and close-minded. I mean, how many times have you heard someone say, yeah, I'm a real open-minded person, you know, I take everything into consideration, but do you really? I mean, do you really take everything into consideration? Because I try to, and by acknowledging things like saying I don't know, or I'm saying that I just simply change my mind based on different information that I have. That's me trying to be open-minded. Okay. So if you hear me say something, this podcast, then I said something the next podcast and it's contradicting, well, I'll get used to it. It's just me figuring everything out. And I'm looking forward to next weekend. Like I said, we're gonna be really. I'm gonna be the student next week. I'm gonna bring my notebook, and I'm gonna ask Bobby a lot of questions, and then I'm gonna go do my research, and I'm gonna find out a lot of stuff. So I'm really looking forward to next week. And don't forget to listen to me on Brutally Sober podcast on Anchor and Spotify, Instagram Brutsob, Twitter Brutsob. Subscribe to our channel, the Alcoholics Anonymous Deprogramming podcast. We might have to change it to where your energy flows. Your see, I don't know.
Your attention goes. That's where your attention goes. Your attention, what you put your attention to, what you put your mind into, the energy flows. Where you put your attention to, the energy flows. I'm gonna just one more note on page 191. This last at the bottom of the page, the last sentence. Okay. The last sentence in the bottom of 191 in the big book, Alcoholic number 3.
Yeah.
Okay. The Lord has been so wonderful to me, curing me of this terrible disease that I just want to keep telling people about it. Has been the sort of a golden text for AA program and for me. I'll leave you with that. Lord God, Heavenly Father.
Sounds good.
So, I was raised a Catholic. Okay, I was religious. I was in a religion. Next week we're going to go into some timelines. Joey's going to ask me a bunch of questions. He's going to try to get me. I know he is.
I'm going to get you.
He's going to try to get me so damn hard. I don't give a shit because I'm going to tell him to go look it up, where to look it up at. Okay. Because I'm not making this shit up. I read it. Okay. Now, where I read it, that could be lies. I don't know, but we're going to check it out. And so go down and subscribe to Alcoholics Anonymous Deprogramming Podcast, and we're reprogramming people. Some people were reprogramming, some people were deprogramming, and some people we just don't want to be programmed. Okay, so check us out. Joey, thank you for another podcast, and we'll check you out next week.
Thank you, Bobby. Always a pleasure spending time with you. I hope you have a great week, and I hope everybody has a great week, and we'll see you next weekend.